Ms. Mood, Ms. Gleason, Ms. Dickerson,
Here.
Mr. Anderson,
Here. Here.
Mr. Lawson,
I'm here, John.
Representative Howard. He did say he'll come at 12:15. Mr. Fergus, Dr. Morris.
Here.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, you do have a quorum.
Thank you.
And for advisory, Mr. Jenkins,
Here.
Ms. Summers,
Here.
Mr. Kuhn, Mr. Green,
Here.
Ms. Robinson, I believe Ms. Robinson's on the line. Mr. Walker, Mr. Kane, and Mr. Unthank.
I'm here, John.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Chair, you do have a quorum. And we do see Mayor Walker on the line as well.
Very good. Motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved. This is Anderson.
Second.
Second. Would you please call the roll, Mr. Ando?
Yes. Mr. Huggins,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Terratio,
I'm sorry, can you fill me on, I just joined. Can you fill me on what we're voting on?
we're adoption of the minutes, the
Okay.
agenda, adoption of the agenda.
Okay, yes, I vote yes.
Ms. Mood, Ms. Gleason, Ms. Dickerson,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson,
Yes.
Representative Howard, Mr. Burgess, Dr. Morris.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Very good. I see the third item, John, is Midlands Transit Riders Association update. Do we have a representative?
Mr. Gonzalez, are you on the line? We do not have a representative, Mr. Vice Chair.
Okay. Item 4, call to the public. Any calls from the public?
Mr. Vice Chair, we do not have anybody signed up for call to the public.
Item number 5, motion to adopt the consent calendar. Is there
So
a motion?
moved. This is Anderson.
Mr. Vice
Is there a
Chair, if I
second?
may ask to remove item B, that is not ready at this time.
Okay, I modify my motion. This is Anderson. I modify my motion to approve the consent agenda absent item B.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second. Smith.
Can we call the roll, Mr. Ando?
Yes. Mr. Huggins,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Terratio,
Yes.
Ms. Mood, Ms. Gleason, Ms. Dickerson,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson,
Yes.
Representative Howard, Mr. Burgess, Dr. Morris.
Yes.
Motion passes, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. Item number 6, discussion and action items. Action item A, election of chair and vice chair. At this time,
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I say at this time, I will take nominations for chair.
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
this. Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair, Robert Morris. Mr. Chair, Robert Morris.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to nominate Derek Huggins for chair.
Ms. Anderson, I second.
Mr. Ando, will you please do a roll call?
Yes. Mr. Huggins,
Pass.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Horatio,
Yes.
Ms. Mood, Ms. Gleason, Ms. Dickerson,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson,
Yes.
Representative Howard, Mr. Burgess, Dr. Morris.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you. I accept that nomination, and I do appreciate it, everyone. Nomination for vice chair.
Mr. Chair,
I nominate as chair, Ms. Horatio.
You mean vice chair, correct?
Yeah, vice chair, yes.
I'll second.
Second.
It has been seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. Huggins,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Horatio,
Yes.
Ms. Mood, Ms. Gleason, Ms. Dickerson,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson,
Yes.
Representative Howard, Mr. Burgess, Dr. Morris.
Yes.
Motion
Very
passes.
good. With Mr. Horatio accepting vice chair, we have an opening for secretary. I would like to nominate Mr. Lawson for secretary. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Ando, please do a roll call.
Mr. Huggins,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Horatio,
Yes.
Ms. Mood, Ms. Gleason, Ms. Dickerson,
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson,
Yes.
Representative Howard, Mr. Burgess, Dr. Morris, and Ms. Mood, we're voting for Mr. Lawson to be secretary. Motion passes, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Mr. Ando, please bring Ms. Mood up to speed on the election of officer, please.
Yes, Ms. Mood and members of the board, the new chair of the Central Midlands Regional Transit Authority is Derek Huggins. The new vice chair is Allison Horatio, and the new secretary is Christopher Lawson.
And the
Thank you.
treasurer. And the treasurer.
And the treasurer will continue to be Andy Smith.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for everyone for voting unanimously on all these positions. Action item number B, key personnel appointments. Ms. Leah Mood.
I'm sorry that I was delayed in joining. So are we on the consent agenda item or on the action item?
We're on the action item. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, we're on item number 6.
All right, I'm looking at the.
Page 130
All right.
of the packet.
All right. I want to speak to the fact that I had presented a motion earlier to the board to change the process for our review of key personnel positions for the contractor. And what I'd like to do today is withdraw that motion and ask the board to allow the Service Committee to examine our policy and process for that area and discuss it and bring any recommendations for change back to the board at a later meeting.
Is that in the form of a motion?
It is.
Very good. Is there a
Yes.
second?
As a
Yes,
point
second.
of order, Mr. Chair, shouldn't that go in the open, in the motions period? Since it wasn't
okay.
previously
You're right.
tabled?
You're right. I'm sorry. Just wait till we get out and keep that motion, Ms. Mood.
All right, I will.
Okay, the next item is C, Security and COMET Central. Ms. Mood.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, we're on page 131 of the board packet. The reason why this is a discussion and action item is we discussed COMET Central Security at the Service Committee at the request of the board from the November Board of Directors meeting. And at that Service Committee meeting, it was a tie vote to determine if the security guards that are used at COMET Central should be armed versus non-armed. So because it was a tie vote, it's being brought back to the Board of Directors without a recommendation, and we would need the board to give direction to staff on if the security guards for new age protection should be armed or not armed.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add to that explanation, please.
Please do.
All right. What happened at the Service Committee was that we had 4 members of the 5 present, and the crux of our discussion was what consisted of arming the security guards. All of us were in favor of arming with handcuffs, batons, mace, pepper spray, that type of arming. Where we did not agree was whether, in fact, the security guards should carry guns, a lethal weapon. And two of us felt that the risk to the security guards a security guard who might find himself at the transit center late at night by himself, their concern, as was the security company's concern, was the safety of that security officer. The two that were not in favor of having the security guards carry lethal weapons were concerned about the real possibility of a situation arising where, in the presence of an unexpected threat and a fear, that the security guard with a lethal weapon would use that weapon when, in fact, a lesser force was actually needed to calm the situation. The presence of that would be a temptation, and I know that we were influenced by the numerous videos that we see where seasoned police officers are confronted with situations over and over, and it's so hard not to go to the lethal weapon if you have it. And so what we considered was that there was no situations in the past at COMET where there was the need for use of a lethal weapon, and so anyway, those were the kind of things that influenced the vote. And as Mr. Ando reported, the vote was a tie, 2 in favor of having the officers carry lethal weapons, a gun, and 2 that were opposed. And so that's why it's back to the board for a decision on what we do here.
Before I move forward with questions, any members of the subcommittee of service standards, would you like to have any dialogue before I open it up for questions?
No, sir. I don't have anything to add. Lil captured it.
Okay, Mr. Ando, can you? I do have a question. Mr. Ando, can you tell me a little bit of history of how well we've done without weapons over the last 3 or 4 years?
Yes, prior to my arrival, to the COMET, we've had difficulties with criminal activity at Laurel and Sumter, yielding multiple complaints from the downtown community and our passengers. When we started to add additional security guards, police officers, yellow shirt ambassadors to COMET Central, the criminal activity significantly decreased to where it's a noticeable change. And as of today, because of the law enforcement partnerships we have with City Center Partnerships, City of Columbia, as well as our contract security force, we've been able to mitigate any concerns quickly. Fast forward to this fiscal year, as an effort to ensure that we're not overexpending on security, we reduced the security budget to having one guard at COMET Central to work in partnership with City of Columbia Police as the second, in essence, security guard there, as well as continued use of the yellow shirt ambassador and the RAPT road supervisor. So that partnership has allowed us to continue to maintain good order at COMET Central. And all of the police as well as security are armed with guns as well as batons, mace, and other tools necessary to ensure the order at COMET Central.
Any questions from the board?
Yes, I have one, Mr. Chair.
You have the floor, Mr. Morris. Dr. Morris.
Thank you. Since things are going well now and security do not have lethal weapons, I think to do away with that or to have them armed, since we have all these problems throughout this country, I would think that that would be really, really a detriment to the COMET. And I certainly wouldn't want to see the COMET get involved with unskilled, untrained officer who carrying a lethal weapon and kill someone.
Okay, Mr. Ando, please clarify that again, what weapons are currently being used over the last 3 or 4 years?
There's never been the use of the gun at COMET Central by either police.
No, not use. I'm not saying use.
Oh.
I'm not saying use.
Okay.
I'm saying what weapons are
Okay.
currently on police officers.
Police officers have guns, batons, and mace. Security officers have guns, batons, and mace as well. Yellow shirt ambassadors only have a radio.
Any other questions, Mr. Morris? Dr. Morris.
My understanding is that the security do not have lethal weapon now. Is that incorrect, Mr. Andor?
Yeah, that is incorrect. Security has had lethal weapons since July 1, 2015.
Okay, and security could call police officers for backup?
That is correct. As well as there's already a police officer on site during the operating hours of COMET Central. But yes, they can call on the police officer for backup.
Well, I don't necessarily think that we should change what we are doing now if it works. But I think we should remain cognizant of the fact that, there are too many problems throughout this country, and the COMET certainly doesn't want to get into a situation where we have someone shot or killed. So I support what we presently have.
Thank you, Dr. Morris. Thank you, Dr. Morris. Any other questions from the board?
This is Mike Green. I just had a question or two. John, how quickly do you think that the police can respond? What is the average response time for the City of Columbia's police department?
Literally within minutes, because we pay for an off-duty police officer to be on property at COMET Central. And then if for whatever reason that off-duty police officer is not available because the police department is not able to get one, lately it's been about 3 to 5 minutes. just because they have a substation next door to COMET Central.
I see. And for the armed officers, they have to be trained by SLED in order to carry a weapon, the security guard personnel. Isn't that right?
That is correct. We did beef up the contract requirements this go around to have the contractor give us a detailed training plan with a curriculum, and then they need to sign off with our contract compliance and customer experience manager that security guard has the proper certifications to carry an armed weapon. And it allows us to monitor that performance on an ongoing basis. The previous contract did not allow for that under Transnet.
Right. And it's my understanding also that if someone is hyped up on amphetamines or meth, that the taser would not be effective against them. Is that what have they recommended anything to us?
You are correct on that, and a lot of the activity that does occur at COMET Central sometimes could be of psychiatric nature, which requires sometimes the use of the baton or handcuffs with extra reinforcements from either police or another security guard.
Any other questions from the board?
This is Anderson. John, you said the contractor has to provide written documentation of certification of the guards. Has that occurred?
We've not executed the new contract as of yet, so no.
Okay.
We are working with legal to finalize that contract, but before they engage, we will do those actions.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Can I get a board member to frame the motion for motion spirit, please?
I actually don't think we need a motion because we're not changing anything, Derek. Or I'm sorry, never mind. I withdraw my comment. I'm not thinking.
Okay, what I'm thinking more than anything else, if we can make sure that Dr. Morris can his indication of continuing to monitor what we're doing, that could be easily framed into a motion. So if I could get a board member to frame that, please.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we continue the process that we have with more support in terms of training.
Thank you. That motion has been framed for item number 7. Item number 7, there are 2 motions from key personnel. Ms. Mood, please.
Okay, so we're taking my motion on key personnel before that motion?
Yes, I want to do, yes, please.
I'm sorry, just point of order. Because 6C is an action item, we just need the board to give us a motion on how to dispense 6C, since this is a carry forward from the November 2020 board meeting. So if I understand, Dr. Morris would like to make a motion to retain status quo.
Wait a minute. Well, I think we have Ms. Mood on key personnel appointments, correct?
Are we making a distinction between mine being a new motion and this being a carryover action?
That's correct. So we would do Ms. Mood in the next item, 7 motions period. We just need to finish 6C with a motion or direction or no action.
Well, it will be a motion, but just like Mr. Anderson said, I didn't think we could make a motion and vote during this discussion. And since we're going into item number 7, motion periods, I was going to place that in item number 7. Am I wrong on that?
Yes, because in item number 7, you can't vote. You can only direct that to another committee.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So that's why we need to suspend 6C.
Okay, there we go. All right, please. If you would, Dr. Morris, move forward, please.
I would make a motion that we continue to do what we are doing now with security and provide as much support as we possibly can.
This is Anderson, I second.
Mr. Ando, call the roll.
Mr. Huggins,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Horatio,
Yes.
Ms. Mood,
No.
Ms. Gleason, Ms. Dickerson,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson,
No.
Representative Howard,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess, Dr. Morris.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you, sir. I guess the next item would be Ms. Mood.
Yes, seven
Yes.
Motion period.
My motion is that the board ask the service committee to review our process of reviewing key personnel appointments from the contractor and come and make a recommendation to the board for any changes that they see as helpful.
Is there a second?
I'll second Anderson.
Call the roll, Mr. Ando.
Mr. Huggins,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Horatio,
Yes.
Ms. Mood,
Yes.
Ms. Gleason, Ms. Dickerson,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson,
Yes.
Representative Howard,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess, Dr. Morris.
Yes.
The motion passes, Mr. Chair, and I
Thank you.
presume that you would want to move this to the service committee.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
before we go any further, I want to make sure that I was not on mute when I voted on the previous motion. It was a yes. I hope you got that. I don't know whether I was on mute or not, but I voted yes for the previous motion as well.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We got you. I heard you. Okay, here we go. Progress reports. Progress reports, information only. Derek Huggins, I just want to tell every board member, advisory board member, how much I appreciate their time. I know we've taken a lot of time over the last 30 days, but we're trying to be very efficient and effective to get the information and have dialogue previously to ensure that these board meetings continue to be productive. And that is my report. As far as item B, committee chairs update, Derek Huggins, COVID ad hoc. Mr. Deschamps, would you please give us a 2-minute report on how well we're doing with the COVID?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. To the board, the COVID-19 subcommittee or ad hoc committee met January 22nd, and at that time the governor had extended through executive order the state of emergency, and also with the new administration, President Biden signing executive order requiring masks at all federal facilities and interacting with federal employees. Also, the COMET continues to operate with our COVID-19 policy, which includes requirement of wearing a mask on all of our buses, and also social distancing and entering our buses still from the rear, and we're still fare-free. And also, too, we continue to do food deliveries. Also, too, the COMET in conjunction with DHEC is still continuing the kiosk down at COMET Central Wednesday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 12 noon and 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. and also on Saturday 10 to 5. Also, next week here at the administrative building, we will offer COVID-19 testing to all staff members on Tuesday, February 2nd from 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. and then on Wednesday from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Also, too, maintenance continued to install barriers on our buses, and hopefully, maybe towards the end of March, 1st of April, that project will be completed. Also, too, wanted to mention just an update on the vaccine and how the COMET will work with all of the providers out there, from retail pharmacies to Prisma Health, where we will be take the COMET to vaccinations, and our marketing and our public information managers in the process of having a marketing plan that will promote that out to the public. So all of that is in the works and should be taking place shortly. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Deschamps?
I got a question. This is Barry Walker.
Please move forward, sir.
Mr. Chair, I got a question.
Please move forward, sir.
Yes, in regards to the COVID protocols that we're under and the continued no fare policy, is there any chance that we can revisit that in a future meeting?
Mr. Chair, would you like me to answer that question?
Yes, please.
Mr. Walker, the Finance Committee has studied this matter, and the direction is right now being held in committee pending the final completion of the driver barriers, which is anticipated for the end of February. And then we anticipate that fare collection provided at the Finance Committee makes that recommendation would occur in the March timeframe.
Okay, thank you.
We do continue to have Columbia Police and security monitor those that are providing COMET service without a destination to try to mitigate those concerns.
All right.
Could each board member continue to have their phone on mute because we're getting a lot of feedback. Okay, intermodal committee update. I will defer to executive session. That item will come up in the executive session. Service committee update.
Mr. Chairman, the only thing I want to bring forward from the service committee is that we had an in-depth presentation of where we are with the long-term planning project, and it was extremely informative information and thought-provoking information. And the feeling of the service committee was that we would encourage the board to schedule a workshop so that all of the board members have the in-depth understanding of the analysis that's been done and what the choices are that we'll be confronted with in shaping any changes in our transit system. And it's going to take an investment of time and attention that would be impossible to fit into just a regular board meeting. So we are encouraging the scheduling of a work session for the entire board on the long-term planning process.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Lill? Moved. Mr. Smith, Finance Committee update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Finance Committee met twice since the last board meeting. Most of the items on our agenda have been dealt with already today through the consent calendar, and then also Mayor Walker's question about fare free, and then Ms. Rando's response, sort of where we are as a committee on looking at that. The big thing that we undertook over the last month was an update of CMRTA policies and procedures in anticipation of the upcoming FTA review. There were a lot of things that staff needed to update and get consistent so that in preparation for that. So Finance Committee actually met for a second time only to look at those items, and we went through everything with a pretty fine-tooth comb, and I think we came away with all of our questions answered and the updates implemented. I think that's all I have at the moment. I'll commend the finance staff again for GFOA award, budget award. They're doing a great job.
Any
Mr.
questions for
Chair,
Mr.
Robert Morris.
Please.
Mr. Chair, I would suggest that all of us learn from what the Finance Committee did at our last meeting. We, when you come down to discussing policies, it usually takes a long time. And just maybe we should consider a special meeting for policies, and we wouldn't have to go 3 or 4 hours. Thank you.
Thank you. Point noted. Point noted. And that brings us to Executive Committee. I do not have an update for the Executive Committee on my part. I will ask Ms. Terratio or Mr. Smith, is there an update on their part?
I don't have an update.
Nothing.
Mr. Ando, will you please, Mr. Ando, please proceed.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board, I did email the executive director update with the community outreach report for review on the activities of the common staff. And then also in your board packet is a list of all of the outstanding motions that still exist. I have no, unless there's any questions, I have no further updates.
Any questions for Mr. Ando?
On January 14th. And the policy went from
someone has their phone not on mute. There's another meeting going on, so I need them to understand that we're hearing their conversation.
Hey, Derek, can you have somebody go through and mute everybody who is not muted, except for, but somebody there needs to do it.
Yes, Mr. Anderson, we're doing that right now.
Very good.
Your yearly costs, okay? So,
motion to, okay, now we're going to item number 9, motion to go into executive session. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
So moved.
Move by Mr. Anderson. Who second?
I'll second it. Terratio.
Terratio. Can we call the roll, Mr. Ando?
Whoever.
Okay, and then the Yukon is $1,192.
Mr. Ando.
Click that. Mr. Huggins,
Did you call Huggins?
yeah,
Yes.
okay. For this time,
I didn't.
No, I don't think they would have gone up just because you had the Yukon. So they may have.
Mr. Ando.
yes.
We're having serious feedback. Please mute all individuals. Please mute all individuals until we figure out who needs to talk at what time, please.
Yes, sir. We're doing that right now.
Call the roll to get into executive session.
Right.
Okay, Mr. Huggins.
Yes.
Okay. For the vote.
Right. Yeah, and I don't see that the individual cards have gone up, just the Yukon was added.
Ms.
Yes.
Ms. Terratio,
Yes.
Ms. Mood, Ms. Gleason, Ms. Dickerson,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson,
Yes.
Representative Howard,
Yes.
Dr. Morris,
Yes.